Hello and welcome to Quays Newsround. I'm Beth Whiteman.
And I'm Heather Davey. Here's what's coming up on the programme today.
A 77-year-old woman has died following a bus crash in Piccadilly Gardens yesterday afternoon.
And with the weather getting colder, we discuss why it's important to stay safe around water.
And make sure to stay tuned until the end of the programme as we share ideas on how you can be sustainable this Halloween, treating, not tricking yourself and the environment.
It has been confirmed that a woman from South Manchester has died following a bus crash yesterday afternoon in Manchester Piccadilly Gardens.
The police, fire and ambulance services rushed to the scene yesterday afternoon. Our reporter Ellie Johnstone went to the scene to find out more.
After yesterday's bus crash, 77-year-old Almina Amica has sadly passed away after being taken to hospital with serious injuries. In a statement issued by Greater Manchester Police, her family said, "Mina was dedicated to her friends, family and faith. She loved music, gardening, TV soaps and nature. She was a senior member of our family, the elder sister and the great-great aunt. She was well loved, our matriarch, and her presence will be hugely missed. Mina was a private person and her family asked that this be respected during their time of mourning. And they've also thanked all the services and people who came to her aid." 11 other people, both bus passengers and pedestrians, were either treated at the scene or in the hospital for minor injuries. I spoke to a witness who got to the scene just moments after it happened.
We were in Piccadilly Gardens yesterday about 1 p.m. when we seen the Diamond bus go up the curb and into the T4 cafe. There was about 9 people that were injured and only 2 of them were on the floor, seriously injured. The other people were taken away to hospital pretty quickly, but the other 2 remained on the floor for about 10 to 15 minutes whilst they were being assessed, and then they were taken to hospital. The emergency services were there within minutes.
The bus driver, who was 64, was arrested on the scene on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving, but he has since been bailed. As you can see behind me, the scene has now been cleared and the T4 bubble shop has now been boarded up after only being open over the last couple of months.
The past week has been devastating for thousands of innocent Israelis and Palestinians. Hamas, who is a militant group operating in Gaza, have started a war against Israel following years of fighting.
The United Nations have said that for those still in the Gaza Strip, they are facing a real catastrophe. Our reporter Patrick Colleen has recapped on the events so far.
Continuous bombing, a rising death toll and endless grief. That's what the last 10 days along the Gaza Strip has contained. There seems to be no end to the torment suffered by innocent people and the conflict between Israel and Palestine. But how much do we actually know about the situation? Let's start over 50 years ago in 1967. The Gaza Strip was captured by Israel from Egypt during the 1967 Middle East War, along with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The war was fought between Israel and the Arab nations, including Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq and Saudi Arabia. During 1987, whilst Israel still controlled the Gaza Strip, a Palestinian military and political group called Hamas was established at the beginning of the First Palestinian Intifada, which was also known as the First Palestinian Uprising. In 2007, Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip during the Battle of Gaza against Fatah. It's reported that at least 161 people were killed during the conflict, and more than 700 were wounded during the fighting. However, despite Hamas's victory over Fatah on land, Israel have maintained control of the air control and the Gaza shoreline since 2007. They say this is necessary to protect their citizens from Hamas. Israel recently announced a siege of Gaza, cutting off basic needs like electricity, fuel and water. They can do this as they still maintain air control and also run the shorelines.
Have you ever heard of Nordic walking?
Well, neither have we, but apparently it's a special technique that makes walking easier.
Anyone can do it no matter what age, and it's especially good for getting older who want more fitness, fun and friendship. Our reporter Erin Parker grabbed her Nordic walking poles and headed out on her walk.
Bringing Scandinavia to South Manchester, Nordic walking is a type of walking that uses poles to work your upper body as well as your legs. Originally done by cross-country skiers to train during off-season, Nordic walking is now enjoyed by over 10 million people globally. I joined Nordic Fit Plus, South Manchester's Nordic walking group, on a walk at Charlton Water Park. After a quick warm-up, I learnt how to Nordic walk.
Your right pole goes, right foot left foot right. That's it. And you'll suddenly find you'll get a rhythm and it'll just, you won't even be thinking about it, yeah.
Nordic walking can be done at any age and has many benefits, such as improving posture, strengthening back muscles, reducing the impact on joints, and it burns around 20% more calories than normal walking.
You're building up lots of new muscles and what have you by using the poles to build your upper body strength, and also your heart rate improves a lot.
It's a good activity for if you haven't exercised in a while or you don't like traditional sports.
It's a lot different to normal walking. I feel like it's easier. My legs don't hurt as much because you're using your upper body as well. And going up hills is a lot easier. I'm actually quite enjoying it.
Many of the group have done Nordic walking for years, and some of them have even become instructors.
How long have you done it for?
5 years. Longer than me. I trained with him to do it when he's not here, only because the numbers are getting so big now. It covers the insurance.
The South Manchester group not only helps people keep fit, it also gives local people the chance to socialise.
I think it's good as a group to get together because it's then become like a social thing.
Some people it gives some structure to the week because they have one day where they can go out for a couple of hours.
Yeah, Mondays, Tuesdays.
Otherwise, when you're retired, sometimes days can roll into one, and then weeks can roll into one, and months can roll into one.
And now that the banks don't want us anymore,
No.
Nordic walking is absolutely fantastic.
But you can't find
It's the
anyone.
most welcoming place.
Erin Parker, Quays News.
Many of us would have done a first aid class at school or in Scouts or Guides, but it's something not everybody has been taught in school.
A study has shown that in countries where CPR is taught in schools, survival rates for sudden cardiac arrest are 2 to 3 times higher than those who aren't taught it.
Our reporter Phoebe McHugh found out more about the importance of learning how to save a life.
Yesterday was National Restart Our Heart Day in the UK, emphasising how CPR can save a life. It is expected that over 38% of UK adults have never undertaken any CPR training, and if immediate CPR is started, it can increase the chances of saving a life.
A heart attack happens when there's a sudden loss of blood flow to a part of the heart muscle. Without enough blood and oxygen, your heart can be seriously damaged. I spoke to heart failure specialist nurse Julie Harris, and she told me about the importance of learning CPR.
So CPR is when you're resuscitating somebody who's gone into a cardiac arrest. It's really important to initiate CPR if somebody has gone into a cardiac arrest state, because you're continuing to deliver that oxygen that's already in the system, circulating, and you're keeping their brain function going until you get paramedic help.
In England, teaching cardiopulmonary resuscitation is part of the health education curriculum for secondary school students and is recommended for students aged 12 plus.
I think CPR is so important for everybody to know. I think everybody should know about it. I think it's fantastic if it is taught in schools. The first one is obvious chest pain, breathlessness, pain down the arm, tightness in the neck, and then obviously if somebody loses consciousness.
If you're interested in learning life-saving skills, Dannywood Life Saving Skills in Salford Quays offers water rescue, life-saving and education to young people across Greater Manchester. Phoebe McHugh, Quays News.
As the weather is getting colder, people are being reminded to stay safe around water.
Colder waters increase the risk of drowning and hypothermia, and our reporters Ewan Wishart and Ben Fieldhouse have some safety tips that you can use to stay safe.
Today we've come down to historic Salford Quays to tell you all about open water safety. With the weather getting colder at this time of year, it's important to stay safe around water. If you were to fall in, you could be in danger of getting cold water shock.
Salford City Council recently released a report on water safety at the quays. Their main points said,
the report found that accidents at the quays mostly involved young people and teenagers. It also found that people did not know the risks of cold water shock or what to do if they found themselves stuck in the cold water here at the quays.
Every year around 400 people die in the UK of cold water shock. Here's some more statistics.
More than 60% of drownings involve people who have ended up in the water by accident. Studies show that people's ability to swim in cold water is much less than their ability to swim in a swimming pool. Survivors of drowning have described how the effects of cold water shock made it difficult for them to survive.
Now we know the dangers of falling into open water. Here's what you should do if you fall in.
First, keep your mouth away from the water until you have your breathing back under control. You can do this by rolling onto your back and floating or paddling to stay at the surface. Then, don't waste any time and swim towards an exit before your muscles start to cool. If you aren't able to exit the water, swim towards something that may help you to stay afloat whilst you're calling for help.
Finally, once you're out of the water, rewarm yourself as soon as you can to avoid hypothermia.
But Ewan, I now know what to do if I fall in, but what if a friend falls in instead?
That's an important question, Ben. First, help them get to shelter, ideally out of the wind. Remove wet clothing and give them warm, dry clothes to wear. Give them warm fluids to drink and food to eat. Food is fuel and helps because their body will generate heat if it has fuel to burn. Reassure and take care of them and get medical help if they do not warm up or improve.
Now you have all the information you need to stay safe around water.
It's officially spooky season and Halloween is just 2 weeks today, and many people are starting to celebrate by visiting local pumpkin patches. Farmers have set up pumpkin patches so that people can have a fun family day embracing the autumn air. Our reporter Brooke Hennigan visited Dunham Pumpkins and found her perfect pumpkin.
What could be more exciting than decorating and dressing up for Halloween? Take a look at these pumpkins that have been grown in Dunham for pumpkin picking. Thousands of children and their families will be using these pumpkins for carving as well as eating. Around 20,000 people will be visiting this farm before Halloween, and I met up with organiser Jonathan Hewitt to find out why he started Dunham Pumpkins.
COVID hit and I was losing my mind at home. And I knew that pumpkin picking was an activity that would be allowed because it was outdoors, and suddenly from one farm doing pumpkin picking, there's now 3 in Dunham that do pick your own pumpkins. So the phenomenon of pick your own has really grown.
With so many people expected to come to the farm, Jonathan and his team have had to create new activities and photo opportunities. But why is pumpkin picking so important?
Each year in the UK, an estimated 15 million pumpkins are grown. Places such as Dunham Pumpkin Patch reopen their doors to allow families and people of all ages to enjoy autumnal activities. Activities including tractor rides and pumpkin picking allow families to build new memories and new traditions that they can enjoy every year.
Despite the weather getting colder, it hasn't stopped people venturing into the fields to pick a pumpkin and eat some pizza. With so many pumpkins on offer, I found out why people came down to the farm.
We've come last 2 years, so it's like a bit of a tradition to come. We normally come with our family as well, but they couldn't come today. But we normally come, just have a nice day out, pick the pumpkin.
Yeah, a bit of food, some drinks. A lot of pumpkins on offer. Obviously you've got your white ones, orange ones, you've got your bigger ones. Big variety, there's a lot to pick from.
Whether you carve Batman or a witch into your pumpkin, Jonathan and his team advise that you wrap up warm and wear your wellies. Brooke Hennigan, Quays News.
And finally, carrying over the Halloween theme, have you ever considered how to be kinder to the planet during the festive seasons? There are ways you can be sustainable this Halloween. You could reduce plastic by giving out homemade treats, or use leftover pumpkins in a soup, sauce or pie. That's right, and it's really important because in the UK we waste more than 9.5 million tonnes of food every year. And so by thinking a little more about what we do with our food, we can have a more sustainable and eco-friendly Halloween. We decided to show you one way of doing this. Here is how we made a pumpkin pie for any of your leftover pumpkin. Every year, around 24 million pumpkins are sold in the UK during spooky season. But when the trick-or-treating is over, 18,000 tonnes of pumpkin is thrown away. To put it into perspective, that's 360 million portions of pumpkin pie. Now you might be asking, why does this really matter? All the pumpkin carvings that you throw away end up in landfill where they rot and decompose. This produces an extremely harmful greenhouse gas called methane, which is 25 times more harmful to our planet than carbon dioxide. Methane is one of the key contributors towards climate change, which is what is destroying our planet. Which is why we are showing you how to be sustainable and make use of your pumpkins this year. Here's all the ingredients you need to make an easy pumpkin pie. Most of this can be found in your cupboard or fridge, and your pumpkin might be spare from Halloween. Make sure to pause the video or take a photo of the ingredients now.
First, grab a responsible adult if you need to help you set the oven to 160 degrees and to cut up the pumpkin. If you're already using a carved pumpkin, skip the first 2 steps.
Now you want to gut the pumpkin by scooping all the inner seeds. Co-conscious, you can preserve these for a soup and toasted pumpkin seeds.
Next, you want to cut the pumpkin into smaller chunks and cut the rind or the outside off. Place your pumpkin pieces on the hob and boil for 15 minutes or until tender. Again, for any younger viewers, please ask for help with this.
Whilst your pumpkin is boiling away, prepare the rest of the ingredients for the filling and don't forget to wash up. Here are all the measurements you need for the filling.
Add everything into one bowl and mix until combined. Your pumpkin should now be ready. Drain and let it cool before blending and adding to the rest of the mixture.
All that is left to do now is to line a baking tin with pastry. You can pre-bake the base if you want to get a Paul Hollywood handshake.
Pour in your combined pumpkin mixture into the pastry base and bake for 35 to 40 minutes or until set.
Enjoy your zero waste pumpkin pie and maybe even a homemade soup. So here we have our pie. Should we give it a try, Have?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit nervous, I can't lie. Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't want the ghost on it. The perfect pumpkin pie.
The perfect. It's actually really good.
The flavour is nice, to
The
be fair.
spice is insane. The texture needs working on.
It does. Room for improvement for the texture, for sure. But the flavour, it tastes like a Starbucks pumpkin ice latte.
It really does. That's all we need next to it now, is the pumpkin spice latte. I actually was a little nervous to try it, but it's not as spooky as I thought. And as I just said, all it needs is a pumpkin spice latte alongside.
I agree, that would be a treat. But now let's see if we're in for a trick or treat with the weather.
Hello, you lot. Right, time for the weather. You've heard about the past, now time to predict the future. Yes, you may as well call me a genius. Right, to do the weather, we need a map. Perfect. And to make the map clearer, we need some names on it. Boom, Salford, Eccles, Stretford, Manchester and Paris. Oh no, wait, we don't need them. So, first thing you usually see is what kind of weather pressure we expect through these fancy lines. Oh look, fancy. These lines are called isobars, and they determine whether we get low pressure or high pressure. Low pressure means colder, more unsettled conditions, and is shown with the bars being closer together. Not too close though, like this, as you may as well be a penguin in Antarctica. Oh, freezing. High pressure is shown with the bars being further apart, more nicer weather. Now we need to see what kind of weather we should expect. So you guessed it, clouds. You're in the northwest, for goodness sake. Of course there are going to be clouds. So we know what kind of pressure, what kind of weather, now how hot it will be, or should I say how cold it will be. We measure temperature in degrees Celsius, not degrees Fahrenheit. That's what the old Americans do. We usually measure from the lowest to the highest expected temperatures, and as we can see there, it's going to be cold. So we know the pressure, what type of weather, and the temperature, and that's the end of that, right? No! We can see what tomorrow brings, and oh no, what's the klaxon going off for? That's right, storm alert, storm alert, storm alert. Storm Babbitt will bring heavy rain and windy conditions, and you may wonder why we name storms. Well, they are named so we avoid confusion and help communicate easily. And you may want to see if your name was ever a storm. So with a storm coming tomorrow, I'm off to get prepared. Heather, Beth, I'll see you later.
Well, it definitely looks like we'll need to get our wellies out if we're planning on picking pumpkins this weekend.
Yes, definitely, Heather. That's all we have time for in today's programme. Thank you for watching Quays Newsround.